everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So this is kind of the video of shame because I have not uploaded in like months, but that's honestly because summer happened. Because I was so busy, I started traveling and doing all these things, and I kind of didn't really make time to make any videos, but we're back now, so it's okay. But today I'll be doing another book recommendation video. So I have read a lot of books, and I feel like sometimes there's like little things in books that remind you of another book you read, and so I'll be giving you recommendations based on books that you liked. And I didn't want to make it too basic. Like, I kind of wanted to choose like different books a little bit. So I hope that you like these recommendations, and let's get into the first one. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is Powerless by Lauren Roberts, which I feel like at this point everyone's read Powerless. I read it myself as well, and honestly I was not the biggest Powerless fan at first. I feel like it really had to like marinate on me, I don't know, but I think I liked the characters more than like the story. There was such like a vibe to it, which I loved. And it kind of, the vibes of it, and I don't mean like the literal aesthetic of it, but I mean like the vibes of it all, like the aura of it reminded me a little bit of Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, and that's my second recommendation. So I think if you like Powerless, you will definitely like Once Upon a Broken Heart, vice versa as well. So if you have not have read Powerless, it's about a girl who she lives in the slums, and she's an orphan. She's been very poor all her life, and she lives in this world where people have like powers, but she doesn't. She's an ordinary, and one day she gets selected for the King's Trials, which I don't want to say too much because I feel like that's not fun, but she gets selected for the King's Trials, and she basically has to battle against all these people with powers, and I just loved it. I thought it was so original and cute. So that's kind of the idea of Powerless. And then we have Once Upon a Broken Heart. Okay, we're back. So Once Upon a Broken Heart is about Evangeline Fox, who is kind of, I don't know if I would say she's realistic, because she's very different than the main character in Powerless, so that is one difference. But it's basically about this girl who finds out that the love of her life is going to marry another, and it's set in this fantasy-esque world. And because she's so hurt, she strikes up a deal with a prince, and he's a cursed prince, and I don't want to say too much, but basically they arrange this deal that she has to give him 3 kisses at any place or time, and it's a very interesting, it's very fairy tale, it's very cute. I did enjoy it. So I think if you like Powerless, you'll like Once Upon a Broken Heart, and the other way around. So the second recommendation I'll be making is the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver, which, guys, don't get me started. This is like one of my favorite series ever, and I think that is because it's so foreign to me. I'm just a girl. I'm not from the US, so seeing all these like cowboy things is so fun to me, and I just loved it. It's basically, for those of you who are not familiar with it, it's a series kind of cowboy-esque. It is set in Canada, but it's very like country, you know? And the first book is about a girl called Summer, and she's from the city, and she basically, her dad, I think he owns like this management company, and he has a client who is a bull rider, I think, and he's kind of having some PR drama, so he basically gets his daughter to kind of be his manager and like come with him to events and kind of guide him, I guess. And they really dislike each other. She's very city, he's very country, and it's just so good, guys. It's so good. And I think I would say the second book in the series is my favorite, and also the spin-off series, the Wild I forgot what it's called, but that series is so good as well. So if you get into it, like if you like it, there's a lot for you. Which guys, I love this series. I also actually I met Elsie Silver one time at this like book signing, and she was the kindest, most stunning, beautiful person I've ever met. So if that doesn't convince you, then I don't know what will. And if you like Chestnut Springs, I would recommend you The Edens by Devney Perry, which it feels okay. You know, when you read a book and it has like a feel, like to me, when I was reading Chestnut Springs, I felt this like country, small town. Like I really felt like I was in the small town. And I had the exact same thing when I was reading The Edens. The town, like it could be the same town, honestly, because the feel of it is so like the cute, cozy, small town feeling. That's exactly what I got when I was reading The Edens. And for those of you who are not familiar with The Edens, which I actually recommended them, the books, in another video I think I did. But it's also about, it's a lot of found family as well as the Chestnut Springs. And it's basically about this girl who is a police officer, and she moves to the small town to become the chief of police there. And her grandpa, I think it's her grandpa, is also the mayor of this town. And on her first night at the local bar, she meets this guy and they have a one night stand. And then she later finds out that he lives in the small town and he owns like a huge ranch, and his whole family basically have businesses throughout the entire town. Like his sister has a cafe, and she basically has to work with him like every day. So I absolutely loved this book because in Chestnut Springs, there's like the family trope is so big, and I love the found family trope. I love found family, but I also love family tropes, and I love it when families have like interconnected standalones, which is exactly what both these series have. So if you like the southern country feel, then you will love these books. They're so cozy, so cute. Just all the characters are so fun, and it's just, oh, I love them. So if you like Chestnut Springs by Elsie Silver, you will definitely like The Edens by Devney Perry. The third recommendation I'm gonna do is kind of, I don't want to say out of the box, but it's a little different. So when I was in high school, I read The Circle by Dave Eggers, and I thought it was so interesting because they also made a movie with Emma Watson, I think, but I feel like the movie doesn't do it justice because it's so interesting, because it is basically about a woman named May, and she gets a new job, and it's this like dystopia. She gets this job through a friend, Annie, and it's this dystopia. It's basically, I think it's based off of the Google campus, but I'm not sure about that. But it's incredible. Like there's so much. There's workout classes, there's meetings, there's like clubs for everything. You can connect with all your colleagues. It's this big, incredible community. You can also live on campus. Like it's amazing. And slowly but surely things start to kind of crack. And I think it's so interesting because it's a lot of the job revolves around ratings and social media and like interactions, and then rating the interaction afterwards. Which is basically like a Black Mirror episode. But in this instance, it gets to an extreme where people start live streaming 24/7. Like they start live streaming their lives, and everyone just has the right to comment on everything they do, which is so insane. And it's become so normalized to, that you truly owe people things. Like if you use social media, you owe people that. And I think one thing about the book, which I don't want to spoil anything, which I always say, but the one thing that like really got to me was there was this one scene where May is canoeing and she sees this beautiful view, she sees the ocean, and there's like this moral argument that people didn't like it that she didn't bring any phone or camera, because that moment is now lost. Like so many people who would have been inspired and loved that moment like didn't get to see it. And I thought that was so interesting, and it really gets the gears going. So I definitely think that's an interesting one if you like the psychology behind like the social media and like the more moral side of it. And the main character, May, reminded me so much, or actually, it's the other way around, because the next book I'm going to recommend you, which I thought reminded me a lot of The Circle, is called Everything You've Ever Wanted by Louisa Sama, I think. I think that's how you pronounce her name. But the main character there, she reminded me so much of May, because I think both of them have this like naive side. I don't want to say that they're bad people, but they have this like crazy side where they definitely let themselves get carried away a little bit. So in Everything You Ever Wanted, I think the main character's name is Iris. I just looked it up, but I can't even find it. So I think it's Iris. But she is basically living in the city. She's living this miserable life. She's so unhappy. She's working this corporate job with colleagues she hates. And I think her inner monologue is so like low-key evil. Like she's so mean to her colleagues. Like when they talk, she's like, ugh, they're so stupid. And she's basically just like lost in life. She doesn't know what she wants. She's just miserable. And then this thing comes out where like I think 100 people are allowed to go to a different planet because they found a way to move to a different planet. And then if you are selected, it becomes a show, and it's like this reality TV that people from Earth can watch, and then slowly but surely they want to move like the entire population to this different planet. And in this book, I don't want to say anything, but you slowly see why something like this would not work and why the way they handled it definitely didn't. So Iris applies and she goes through all these tests and questions, and this robot's like asking her all these things, and there's like thousands of applicants, millions of applicants, so she's never gonna get selected, she thinks. And then one day she gets notified that she got selected and that she's going to be moving to this different planet. And when she leaves, she is so incredibly happy. All these people that are with her are so exciting. She's so excited for her new life. She thinks everyone on Earth is going to be so jealous of her. Like, and then it kind of starts to go downwards. And then the end of this book left me so shook. I still think about it all the time because I'm like, that's crazy. And I don't want to say anything, so I'm not going to. But I would definitely recommend that book. It is so good, and I actually would love to reread it. And I know I'm a big rereader, so I know it doesn't say anything that I want to reread a book, but I just thought it was so interesting. And it is honestly a page turner. Like when I was reading it, certain things happen that are so strange that you're like, what's happening next? Like I have to keep reading. So I love that book. And I think the moral side of it on how people work and how people interact and stuff, that reminded me a lot of The Circle. So if you like one or the other, or if you have not read either, read both because they're so good. The fourth one that I'm going to recommend to you is anything Rena Kent. Read the Mindfuck series. Which, okay, these, I do have to give a trigger warning because these, like, books, all of them, are insane. Like, they're so dark and low-key feel illegal to read, but they're all dark romance, and the Rena Kent books have lots of different kind of, I don't know how to call it, like, they have lots of different little series. So I think there's one series set in London at a private school, and then there's one like branch, that's the word I was looking for. There's one branch that is set in a law firm, and then there's one branch kind of mafia, and then all their kids also have books, and like it's this whole thing. And low-key my guilty pleasure, I've read every single one except the newer ones. Legacy of Gods is the last series I read, but everything else I've read. And the first book you should read is Cruel King. So if you want to get into it, read Cruel King. That's the one set in London at the private school. But I ate these books up and they're so good. They're definitely very dark, so definitely read the trigger warnings before. And see if you're into it, because it's also very valid if you're not. It's definitely not for everyone. But I think these books reminded me a lot of the Mindfuck series, because those are also pretty dark, and I think they have this same kind of crazy feeling to them, like the kind of dark feeling, which the Mindfuck series, for those of you who are not familiar, is about a woman who, Lana, who has gone through a lot in her life. Something happened to her, something bad, and because of that, she became a serial killer. Guys, hear me out. I promise. It's so good. I love this series so much. But one day she's at a bar and she meets this FBI agent, and they don't know from each other that they're obviously a serial killer and an FBI agent. And they start talking, and they have this like really this connection, this chemistry, and they start really liking each other. And he also starts sharing about his cases, and it turns out that he's the one on the case for this serial killer, that she's doing all the killing, you know. So I thought that was so interesting and so original and so good, because I ate it up. And I just love how, as the series moves on, it becomes crazier, and you're like, oh, when are they gonna find out? Like, when is he gonna find out? And it's just so good. And it's definitely very dark. It's also it's very gruesome and like gory, I would say, even though it's a book. So you can try it, but it definitely has to be your cup of tea. But I love this series. I think also the characters and the story and the morals of it, like, I thought that was so interesting, and I just love Lana. I love her. She's so baddie. So I would recommend those if you like them. Okay, and then the fifth and final recommendation. This one is a little, like, you need to hear me out on this one, because it's The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. And I think everyone knows The Summer I Turned Pretty. Like, I do have to admit, I'm not the biggest fan of the books. I think I like the show better, but I think that's just because I read the books when I was like 18, I think. So the books are very YA, and I felt like I just couldn't enjoy them as much as I would have if I was like younger. But I still love like the vibes of it. Cousins, like, is the coastal town feeling of it is just incredible, and I love that like coastal coziness, like that beautiful, like, I don't know how to describe it, but that feeling is so incredible. And I think that's why I made this connection. But if you like The Summer I Turned Pretty, I would recommend you read It Happened One Summer, by Tessa Bailey. And I do have to say, these are different genres, okay? The Summer I Turned Pretty is YA, and It Happened One Summer is definitely not YA. It does contain explicit content, but the reason I made this connection is because they both have this coastal feeling. So if you don't know The Summer I Turned Pretty, it's about a girl called Isabel, and they call her Belly. And every year she goes to Cousins to the summer house with her mom, and her mom's best friend comes as well. And she has two sons, and they basically all grew up together, and they go to this beach house every year for the summer. That's basically the plot of the book. And that coastal feeling of like the beach house and like the vibe and like that feeling reminded me of the setting of It Happened One Summer, where, if you don't know that book, it's about two girls who find out that their dad died and that he left them a bar, like a pub, like a bar, like in this tiny, teeny coastal town. And they're both from the city, so they go all the way down to stay there and fix this bar, and all the locals are kind of running this bar, and they're not aware that the bar was left to these two girls. So it's interesting. It's definitely very city girl goes outside of the city, like, yeah. But I actually love that trope. And the book is about Piper, who's the oldest sister, and she meets a fisherman, and they hit it off. That's all I'm gonna say, because I don't want to say anything. So if you read The Summer I Turned Pretty and you're a teenager, maybe you don't read It Happened One Summer Yet. Maybe read that one like when you're 18. But the vibes of both, incredible. So that's where I made the connection. And let me know if you guys agree with my connections. Maybe you don't. But my brain works in interesting ways. So let me know if you guys like this video and what else I should do. And I will try to make more videos because I just like talking about books, obviously. So let me know what else you want to see. And I love you guys. And thanks for being here again after such a long time. And don't mind my mess. My room is a mess. But anyways, love you guys. Bye.